Is this thing on? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you're not watching a replay. This is live. We're in the flesh. We're on your computer screen, TV screen, phone, whatever you want to call it. We're in your ears. And I'm sorry if I'm in your ear right now because I am very loud, really juiced up. My guy, Dan Kiley, is right back alongside me that way. Or that. All right. All right. We're just struggling on all sorts of things here on camera. Dan, how you doing, my man?
I am doing well. I am excited to be back doing our show. Caught that bug. Big, huge thank you to Robert, the DGD podcast, for kind of stoking that fire. And then Harrison for finally finishing his year of school. And now we're back.
We are back, baby. As Dan said in, what is it? Alabama's back. If you know where that clip is, I might have to go find it before this show's over because that is my all-time favorite clip that we have on this show. Dan, let's hop. Actually, hold on. Before we do it, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, I was the reason we had a hiatus here. It was me. I was pursuing an opportunity that came up and told Dan, I was like, hey, until I figure out like what the answer is here, let's just cease production for a little bit. Kind of got my answer here recently to come back, brother. And he said, yes, sir. So we are back. We are here every Tuesday, 7:30, 8:30. I don't care. We'll be here. We try to go 7:30, but like I told Dan today, it's not our show unless I'm having to delay it like an hour or push it up. So we will go with the flow, roll with the punches. And we're coming back with like a new style to the show. We are, and we always will be, a Georgia football podcast, but there's so much going on in the world of sports that Dan and I don't want to just pigeonhole ourselves into talking about just Georgia football when we can talk about everything else. So we're going to try and branch out a little bit here, and you'll see that today. But for the future, in the comment section, in the live chat, if you got something that you want to hear us talk about, put it in there, especially the live chat. Dan be scrolling through there. I be scrolling through there, and we be looking for great topics to talk about. We are the most fan interactive show there is on the internet. You won't find one better. That's what we pride ourselves on here. Dan, hot topic number one. Are you a fan of the pitch clock that you've now had 2 seasons to adjust to in the MLB? There's a lot of controversy around this, especially around the Braves. Let's hear your take.
Yeah. Me personally, I did not like it when I first heard about it, but now that I've had a chance to kind of digest it and see how the game progresses with it, I actually don't mind it, to be completely honest. It does keep the game moving. And baseball is trying a lot of these new rules, and some I like, some I don't like. And I wasn't a huge fan of the pitch clock when I first started, but now I almost don't even notice it anymore. And I don't think the players have a real problem with it anymore either. I have heard some people try to say that it's causing injuries in pitchers. I don't believe that to be true. Um, but, if you go back and you watch some highlights from some of the old games, there would be a minute between pitches, and that's just a lot. And, in today's society with the limited attention span, I think it has helped the game. And then I think it actually made it a better product because the game just moves quicker. It's just more seamless and there's less downtime. I have come around. And we are allowed to do that in life. We're allowed to change our opinions. And my opinion is that I actually don't mind the pitch clock now. Like I said, to be completely honest, I don't notice it. And I feel like the game is a lot smoother, Harrison. So I don't know how you feel about it, but that's kind of where I sit.
Here's my take, Dan. And, originally when the injuries started happening, all the UCLs, the Tommy Johns, I was gullible to the belief of, hey, that's the problem. It's the pitch clock. Pitchers having to speed things up. But no, I've read some people on Twitter, and they've convinced me, and I think it's probably part of it. Dan's the baseball guy more so than I ever was, so he can probably give you this answer. I think it's the loss of the foreign substances that these pitchers, can't use anymore that has probably made or kind of impacted how things go about. Having to grip the ball harder to get a firm grip, and by that they are tensing up those muscles in their arms and throwing that, trying to throw it as hard as they can constantly. Obviously, that's going to result in. I like being able to sit down for a baseball game, Dan, and see we have had like 2 or 3 Braves games that have ended in under 2 hours. Like, it is nice to have some speed to my baseball games now. It's not a 4-hour event anymore, and I like that.
Yeah, I don't mind the game being long. I mean, as long as it's action packed. What I do have a problem with is like I said, taking a minute and a half in between pitches, that's problematic. The multiple attempts over at first base when you're not going to get a guy. I understand you're trying to keep the runner close, but I do kind of like the new adjustment to where you can only throw over twice. It does it give the runner an advantage? Absolutely. If you don't get them in the first two attempts, if you try it a third time and you're unsuccessful, they get the next base. So in reality, a lot of times if you already tried to pick them off twice and then you can't throw over again, that guy gets a bigger lead and he can take off running. So there is an advantage. Inherently, there's an advantage. But again, it's caused the game to speed up. There's a little bit more excitement. Ronald Acuna is hell on the base paths right now because nobody can figure him out. And that's a lot of fun to watch. Now, if you're not a Braves fan, you don't like it, but we are Braves fans and I do like it. And Ronald is pure hell.
And he throws up the little "you can't see me" every time he does steal second on you, which makes it all more the fun. Dan, hot topic number 2. Obviously, in the last 2 seasons, 3 seasons, I forget exactly how old it is now. The
It's
NBA has instituted. Oh, it's just one. Has instituted the mid-season NBA tournament. First off, do you enjoy it? Second off, do you understand it, sir?
No and no. I don't understand it. I don't understand what the point of it is. I don't understand the advantages of winning it. I guess you automatically make the playoffs. I think that's what the Lakers did. I'm not 100% sure. Somebody can enlighten me if you want to. I don't understand how it works. And to be completely honest, I didn't enjoy it because they kind of like factor these playoff games in the midst of like the regular season. So you didn't know what was a regular season game, what was a playing game. Hell, the Hawks weren't a factor at all, whether it be the play-in tournament or the end of the year tournament. But I don't get it. I don't understand. And I'm not trying to be the old guy, get off my lawn. I mean, I didn't understand it. It wasn't well conceived. I don't think it was very well implemented, and I just didn't understand it. They didn't really go out of their way to explain exactly how it works, and it didn't seem to be a huge advantage of winning the damn thing. So, no, I honestly, I didn't get it, Harrison. I mean, maybe you understood it better than I did, but I didn't get it.
I understand the attempt. And here's the attempt, I think, in my opinion, Dan. So in English soccer, there's the Champions League. There is the Europa League. There is all these different cups that they play for throughout the season. I think the NBA was going for that model of, hey, we want these regular season games that we play to matter more than just being one of 82. And I understand it, but like you said, the stakes aren't high enough there for me to really care. At the end of the day, it's the one. It's you're playing one of the 82 games or two of the 82, and unless you're a diehard fan, are you gonna go out of your way to go out there and watch it? Me, no. I'm the casual NBA fan that usually doesn't tune in regularly until the playoffs. And Dan may slap me outside the head for saying that. That's just the way I am. But no, I don't understand it. Can't really say that. I mean, I enjoy when there's stakes on the line and the players are actually playing because I want to see the best players play. So if the midseason tournament is getting the best players not to manage their load, I'm all for it. But like you said, I don't understand it. Yet to be determined if I really enjoy it. It'd be like, what if baseball just decided they wanted to do something midseason? Like, it's just weird. I mean, maybe it's a good idea. Maybe they should try it. I don't know, but I'm not not loving it, but I'm not really hating on it. If you know what I mean. Next topic, and we're getting into some dog talk, some NFL talk here, Dan. The NFL draft, probably the best event of the offseason, in my opinion. By far, I don't know anything that comes close to it. I had never talked on the phone more than I have to anybody about the NFL draft than I did with Dan. I think Dan and I spoke on the phone almost like once a week for several straight weeks leading up, and it was constantly about, hey, here's what I think is going to happen. And we ended up being both pretty wrong, especially on the number 8 pick, especially there. And Dan's going to get into that later, so I'm preventing him. I want him to be juiced up to the gills for that one when we get to his rant of the week. But Dan, let's get some reactions to the first round dogs that went only 2 this year, which most than more that there's more than most. Brock Bowers at number 14, the Oakland Raiders. I don't know about you, Dan. Kind of shocked. I didn't have the Raiders on my radar in terms of Brock Bowers. I thought he was going at 10 to the New York Jets, but I mean, what's your takeaway here? Michael Mayer, Brock Bowers. I'm kind of here for it. Really gonna be interested to see those Notre Dame fans that were saying Mayer should have won the Mackey Award. Those two teams teaming up, those two fan bases teaming up. I'm here for it, but like I said, kind of shocked. I think we lost him. Yeah, we lost him. All right. What's shout out? Yeah, shout out to Jaden. What's up, Zachary Moss? Filibustering here as we go through some technical difficulties with Dan. You're actually okay with the Falcons pick. That's a hot take there, Zach. That is a hot take. And I'm not going to touch on that just yet because, like I said, Dan has a whole segment on that pick alone coming up here in a moment. But like I said, with the Brock Bowers pick, I thought the Jets were going to be his home. I really did. And here's Dan now. Dan, welcome back. I remember when it was me having to deal with that. Everything all right now?
Yeah, I have no idea what happened. It just kicked me out and then took me back in. So I don't know. I apologize.
Dan, you're good, buddy. Let's get what about you? Were you as shocked as I was when the Raiders took Brock?
Yeah, listen, we put a lot of stock and a lot of attention into the mock drafts and where people have it going, and it's not an exact science. Obviously, people's boards look different than other people's boards, but you try to think about what makes sense and where people fit. And to be completely honest, the Jets at 10 made a lot of sense. They ended up going in a different direction. And you saw some stuff early, like maybe at 5 with the Chargers. You saw it a couple different places, but I did not have the Raiders on my bingo card. And to be completely honest, I mean, listen, if you're the Raiders, I understand you want a great player. He's he was the best player available if you look at it that way, because many people made the argument Brock might be one of the 2 or 3 best players in the entire draft. I get that, but the Raiders already have a tight end, and then on top of that, they don't have anybody to throw anybody the ball. I mean, I'm not even 100% sure who their quarterback is at this point, but he ain't good, and they don't really have. I think is it O'Connell? Maybe O'Connell's the quarterback.
Correct.
Yeah, so O'Connell's the quarterback. Like you have bigger needs than, but. The Raiders wanted to target a quarterback, and then the way that everything played out, there were no quarterbacks available at 14 for the Raiders to take. So, they just want the best player on the board, in my opinion, in Brock Bowers. And yeah, I think this is a bad spot for Brock. I mean, I know he's so talented, but I don't know that we're going to get to see the best version of Brock in that offense. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. Because we all want him to have a great career. I don't know that this is going to propel him to have a great rookie season unless, O'Connell maybe is a little bit better than we think. Or maybe Brock provides that safety blanket for somebody like O'Connell. But then what are you going to do with Michael Mayer at tight end, who is, the guy from Notre Dame, who's a really solid tight end to begin with? And I think they have another tight end too. I don't think he put that in there. But anyway, it's not the ideal fit for him. I hope it works out well. I don't doubt Brock's talent at all. I doubt, or I have my reservations on exactly how he'll be used. And I don't know that it's necessarily the best place for him to have a tremendous rookie year. I thought maybe playing with the Jets and having a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers would be great for him. I don't know. I'm really kind of lost on that one. And it's not because it's not a good pick for them. It's just I don't exactly know how that's going to work out.
I'm with you there. The way I'm envisioning it so far with Mayer and Bowers, I assume that they're going to go, Brock Darnell type, where Mayer's being the inline guy and Brock's, going out and doing what Brock does, playing the slot, playing out wide. Maybe we get some jet sweeps in the NFL. I'd really love to see Brock take a jet sweep to the house of the NFL. That'd be really interesting to me. But hey, if their vision is we want to acquire as many playmakers as possible and give our young quarterback, who I don't think anybody's sold on, a chance to succeed, then I'd say you're pretty much succeeding at that if you're Antonio Pierce right now. You have Devontae Adams, who, despite maybe getting up there in age, is still effective. Jacoby Myers. I really like Jacoby Myers, former New England Patriots receiver. He's effective. He's a quarterback's best friend. in the slot especially for a young quarterback. You're going to have Michael Mayer. You're going to have Brock Bowers. Like Dan says, you kind of really have basically 2 safety blankets worth of tight ends, if that's how you want to use them. You also have Jacoby Myers, who I think can be a safety blanket out of the slot. I'm really curious to see this offense because I don't even know who the Raiders OC is, Dan. And I put it here in the show notes. If this was Josh McDaniels and he was still the head coach there in Oakland, it wouldn't have shocked me that this would have been his pick. He gets his, not to go hyperbole here, but he gets his 2 tight end system like he had with Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez back in the day, except neither of these 2 players are like Brock or like Gronk. And maybe not even Aaron. I think they're both different tight ends compared to Aaron. Maybe I'm wrong there, but wouldn't have shocked me if it was McDaniels, but it's not McDaniels, so I'm intrigued nonetheless with this one. And then at number 18, the last Georgia player taken in the first round, Amarius Mims. And Dan, I don't think there's much for us to analyze in terms of how he fits with Cincinnati. I think it's without question he's going to be the starting tackle, whether it's right or left for him. That's maybe a matter of inquiry here after Jonah Williams left in free agency and Lyle Collins didn't pan out there. They signed him, I think, a year or 2 ago. But what is newsworthy is Nick Saban's comments after the selection. Nick Saban said, and I quote about Mims, this guy has got all the tools. He's got the size. He's got great power. But it makes you wonder, how did he only start 8 games? Like in the SEC championship game, he played only the first 15 plays of the game, and then he's out. Saban continues, takes himself out. I don't know what he's injured. I don't know what he hurt, whatever. But you've got to be a little bit more consistent in your performance if you're going to be a great player and starter in the National Football League. Dan, I want your takeaway or just your honest opinion or response to Nick Saban.
Well, one, I'll start by saying that I value Nick Saban's opinion. Obviously, he's probably the greatest college coach of all time. However, I think that comment may be a little bit out of turn. You don't know exactly what he was dealing with. Kirby is not going to tell everybody everything. Maybe there was something he was dealing with. He tried to give it a go and couldn't play. And then as far as not starting games, we know they had NFL first-round guys in front of him. And that's not to say that he's not talented enough to play. He obviously was. Georgia wanted to keep him for a reason. When he was in the game, he was extremely dominant at all times. I don't recall him ever just getting abused. But if you're Cincinnati, you take him because the guy's an absolute beast. And your number one priority for Cincinnati should be protecting your, projected Hall of Fame future, quarterback in Joe Burrow, who's already gotten injured because you couldn't protect him early in his football career. So you want to try to put beasts up front to keep that guy upright, because if Joe Burrow's healthy and if Joe Burrow's clean in the pocket, he's going to just absolutely murder people in the pocket. He is extremely talented. So it's a no-brainer for me. There's already some tackles off the board. So, it's like Joe Alt, I understand, being the best tackle in the draft, but I think Amarius Mims has the ability and the talent and the size and all of that to absolutely be Joe Burrow's protector up front. So that part I don't have a problem with. Cincinnati, like you said, there's not a whole lot to say. It makes perfect sense. As far as Nick Saban goes, I mean, listen, he's paid to give it an opinion. He doesn't know everything, but he's allowed to give his opinion. He's got the resume to say whatever the hell he wants to say, to be completely honest. I just don't know with I think he could have stopped at he only started 8 games. I think that's a fair criticism. But to say that he played the first 15 plays of the game and then took himself out, we don't know that he took himself out. We don't know that. And like I said, there may have been something he was dealing with, Harrison. I don't know if you know, but I don't remember hearing that there was an injury, but there very well may have been that something they were just keeping under wraps.
Oh, absolutely. I think he was dealing with some sort of, I want to say ankle, but I'm not quite, I'm not quite sure on that, but I do remember, I thought he was banged up, or I think he missed. Was he one of the ones out against Georgia Tech? I thought he may have been. So I'm not sure. And Saban was the first I've ever heard of him taking himself out in the SEC championship game, allegedly. Never heard of that until Saban said it. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Even if Saban stopped at, he only started 8 games, Saban's allowed to give his opinion, and he certainly his voice is valued. But to the question of how did this guy only start 8 games? Well, I can tell you how. Broderick Jones, Jamari Salyer, Warren McClendon.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys were all draft picks. Broderick Jones was a first-round draft pick. Warren McClendon was late-round draft pick. Jamari Salyer was a late-round draft pick who is the starting left tackle, I want to say, for the Los Angeles Chargers. That's how he only started 8 games there at Georgia. That's all I have to say on that. Dan, take us away with the rant of the week, the first one in a long time.
All right, so being a Falcons fan sucks. And I'm going to go ahead and give a disclaimer that I'm going to try to behave in this segment. But if you don't like profanity, I can't promise you that there won't be any. So if you want to skip past this part, that's fine. Or you want to mute it, that's fine too. For the longest time, I don't have faith in the Falcons. I don't. And this is a constant conversation between me and Harrison and Jonathan and Jeremiah and our group text. They all, for whatever reason, have faith that the Falcons are going to get things right, and I don't. And this goes back a long time with me. I remember screaming at the TV draft anybody but Jamal Anderson, and we're talking about the other one, not the Dirty Bird, but the other one. I was like, anybody but him, and then they took him, and he didn't work out. Vic Beasley, obviously, he had a good first year, and that was fine. But there's so many other picks, and it's not so much the picks, okay? It's not so much the picks. It's when they take them and how they maneuver in the draft. It always seems to me like whoever the Falcons brass is, they don't know how to work a draft. They don't know how to move in the draft. They don't know how to get the guy that you want in the place that makes sense. They constantly reach. In the past, there have been some reaches. So I went back to the 2016 draft just for fun, and I remember being upset at the time. Well, they took Deion Jones way ahead. They took Keanu Neal way ahead. Well, both of those guys ended up working out. They took Austin Hooper in that draft, who nobody wanted him, and they took him way too early. Well, Austin Hooper ended up being a productive player for the Falcons. But then you go into the other drafts. So just Scary Terry, in his 3 drafts, if you go back and look at him, he's not drafting starters. He's not getting starters. Harrison, jump in the screen real quick because I can't say his name. The defensive lineman that they got in the second, Udike or what?
Ebiketie. Arnold Ebiketie.
Okay, Ebiketie has become a rotational player that works on this team. The linebacker that they took that I didn't want, he doesn't. You took Drake London. You took him at number 5, I want to say it was. You took him really high in the draft. And you had guys like Garrett Wilson, who's over 1,000 yards. And you took a guy in there, Chris Olave, over 1,000 yards, approaching 100 catches. And you can say, oh, well, he hasn't had a quarterback. Neither have they. Okay? You had Zach Wilson is a quarterback for Garrett Wilson, and he figured out how to catch almost 100 balls in 1,000 yards, and he gets in the end zone. You had Chris Olave, who is New Orleans had a quarterback, okay? And he's managed to go over 1,000 yards and be a productive player, where Drake London, to me, the jury's still out. Now, not with Harrison and not those guys. They feel like he's an elite wide receiver. I don't. I feel like there was other guys you could have taken. I don't think that he was going to be the first receiver taken on anybody's draft. You could have moved back a spot or two, got more assets, and still got Drake London if that's the guy you targeted. Kyle Pitts has not panned out. Okay, he had a really good first year, and then he hasn't been healthy. The guy's had 5 touchdowns in 3 seasons. That's not good. I don't care how you draw it up. You have a pick number 4 overall. My biggest issue with the Falcons is their inability to maneuver in a draft and work a draft like some of these other GMs are able to do. Michael Penix. I am stupid and allowed myself to believe that the Falcons were going to do the right thing and take an edge rusher. And I wanted Dallas Turner. Some people wanted Latu, and that's fine. Either one of them would have been absolutely fine. Because if you're going to pay a quarterback $180 million, he is not 24 years old. He doesn't have a long window. He has a very short window. And you have announced to the entire NFL that you are in win now mode by taking a guy like Kirk Cousins and paying him $180 million. So how do you back that up? In the first round of the NFL draft, you take Michael Penix at number 8. Nobody was taking Michael Penix at 8. And I understand the narrative that has been created that, all the quarterbacks were gone by pick 12. They were because of what you created. You created a domino effect that where people took all the quarterbacks because they didn't expect one to be gone at 8. in my opinion, you have let the entire team down. You have let the entire football team down by taking a player who is not going to play. There was a great quote a long time ago, and I don't remember, maybe it was Pioli or one of those guys. They said, to be a successful franchise in NFL, you have to find 3 starters in every single draft. You have to hit on your first round picks. You have to hit on your second round picks. And then every so often you have to hit on your third and then try to find a starter somewhere else. Michael Penix could be a great player. Could be. But I was listening to Rex Ryan and all these other guys talking. They said that, the Falcons are almost guaranteeing that Michael Penix is going to be a hit. And they said, if you think that taking a quarterback in the first round is an automatic hit, then you don't know football. Because, and I think it was Rex Ryan who said that NFL quarterbacks hit at 33% in the first round. And that's not good. That's not, and the only way for this to be successful is either Kirk Cousins plays and he's really successful, and then Michael Penix doesn't play, and then that's a fail because you wasted that draft pick. Or Kirk Cousins gets hurt, he's not able to play, and then Michael Penix is forced into play. Now you bet he better be good. He better be good. I when that pick was made, my body went numb. I went completely numb, and I sat there for the next 3 or 4 hours, or however hell long that first round was, and I was just numb. I was absolutely numb, and I don't even know who got picked after that for a while, because I do now because I've looked it up. I was just in such disbelief that's what they decided to do with that pick. And I see all these people in the comments, not necessarily on these comments, but just the comments like, oh, Twitter GMs are like, oh, you guys think you know more. Yeah. And it is the number one story across the country in all the media. So, okay, maybe Dan doesn't know football, but does Mina Kimes, who's one of the best personnel people in all of football, she's a woman, I understand that, but Mina Kimes is really good at her job. My guy, oh my gosh, I just blanked out his name. My guy, the guy I wanted as the GM of Atlanta Falcons, Harrison.
Louis Riddick.
Louis Riddick. Does he know football? I would make the argument Louis Riddick knows a hell of a lot more football than you guys. And, Brian Finneran, who played in the league, I've listened to Johnson, who was the offensive tackle at one point for the Atlanta Falcons. I've listened to Rex Ryan, Bill Polian, Bill Belichick, Michael Lombardi, all of these people. Dan Orlovsky does not know football, Zach. All of these people who know football, and they are dumbfounded by the pick. It is still today. We are 5 days removed from this pick. It is still the number one trending topic of how the Falcons absolutely butchered this in the draft. And and this has nothing to do with Michael Penix. And I don't want to hear that, because I want him to be successful, but it just wasn't the pick. And then, to be completely honest, I've actually calmed down on the Penix. I'm not wanting to just absolutely rip things apart anymore. It's the second round pick. What in the hell are you doing? You moved up. You gave up a third round pick for a guy that nobody wanted. Could he end up being good? Sure, he can. Do I want him to end up being good? Absolutely, I do. But nobody was taking him at 35. Nobody in the world was taking that man at 35. When they moved up, we thought maybe the defensive tackle from Illinois, or maybe one of the corners that were on the board. Cooper DeJean was on the board. I understand that people don't want him because he's white, and that's it is what it is. And then I also, Kamari Lassiter was there. Corner was one of the biggest needs for the Falcons. Buck Bellew was hellish on getting a corner. He wanted a corner at number 8. He wanted Quinyon Mitchell at number 8. So I thought maybe they were doing that, and then they move up to take the guy from Clemson. The guy's only been playing football for 5 years of his entire life. My biggest issue is that if you look at the Falcons draft, where are the starters? Where are they? Where the hell are the starters? You are in win now mode. And they're like, oh, we're planning for the future. Well, you just took a quarterback for 4 years, which is really 2 years, at $180 million fucking dollars, and you're in win now mode, and you're like, oh, we're drafting for the future. How short-sighted can you be? I'm getting worked up again, but I'm just absolutely dumbfounded, and I just get so frustrated that I support such a stupid-ass team. Harrison, take it over.
Hey, I'm soft clapping because I don't want to be too loud at the mic. Dan's rant, the first time since December, maybe early January, absolutely hit today. If you don't like and subscribe for any reason, and subscribe for that. You can get that every Tuesday or thereabout, depending on if Dan has a rant, which, as I know, it was a joke, a running joke in the beginning of the show. The question was, what is Dan mad about this week? There are rants where Dan's not mad about anything. Dan's just ranting about, hey, this is something good going on. I want to rant about it. I want to talk about it. So, yes, maybe there's something good going on next week. But I told Dan when we brought this back, I was like, well, first thing I want you to talk about is the Falcons draft. Because I pretty much agree with you on almost every point you made. And Dan, while you were talking, I went back through the Falcons drafts over the last few years. And I'll pull it up right here for you. I'm gonna go ahead and pick out the starters. Like, okay, we know he is for sure a starter. All right, starting in 2021, Kyle Pitts is a starter. Drake London's a starter. He's not a starter. He was a starter. He's starting he was starting as a rookie. Bijan's starting.
Hold on. Before you move on, Tyler Algier was a great pick. Okay, we didn't know who he was when they took him. I don't think anybody supported that pick. They got that pick right. So we'll give him credit for Tyler Algier because the guy went for 1,000 yards. He's one of the better backs in the league. I'm not going to say best. He's one of the better backs in the league. I give them credit for Tyler Algier, so move on.
I don't know how you feel about this because he's not going to start this year, I don't think. Or he may. We'll see. But I don't think Richie Grant was a bad pick per se. Better than Jalen Mayfield, I will say that. Way better. But, I mean, if you take him out of the conversation, you got 1, 2, 3, 5 starters over, what, 3 drafts?
Who did you select?
I had Richie Grant, but I took him off for the sake of this segment.
Yeah, I don't even know if he's on. Go up.
Oh, who?
Who's the second one right there?
Right here? That's Matthew Bergeron, starting guard.
Okay, but he sucks. He starts because we have to.
Yeah, I mean, he's needed. But, yeah, that's kind of what it's looking at right now. That's what I was just curious when I went back over. Oh, and I forgot, yeah, Helms or Grant. And, hey, I'll go ahead and give him credit. If Helms is starting for them next year, this coming season, that's a good pick. Because I think Dan remembers, I was like, wait, they took Helms whenever they did last year. Didn't think that was going to work out. So I'll give Terry props for that. But yeah, I'm with Dan on this in terms of the quarterback at 8, because not only are you saying, okay, we think our roster's good enough, we don't need a first-round value player, but then to me, it's overconfidence in the sense that, hey, our second-round pick, our third-round pick, and our fourth-round pick, and so on, we're going to get starters. I really like Brandon Delores out of Oregon. If they can figure out where he's going to play in the NFL and he develops, I think he could end up being the best player in that draft class, in my opinion. Unless Penix goes crazy.
I honestly don't have a problem with picks 3 through the end of the draft. Like, I mean, listen, it's slim pickings at that point, and you have to try to find guys that can play. I get all that, and they loaded up on the defensive line, and I understand. If you're not 100% sure, throw numbers at it. I get that thought. I'm not going to crucify the Falcons for their third to the rest of the picks, but their first 2 picks are just head scratchers. Like, it doesn't make sense. And then the biggest thing I've heard, or the thing I agree with most, is Michael Lombardi was on, and he was talking about the problem. Well, all right, so you can go and listen to it for yourself. But Michael Lombardi was on 680 Fan, and he went really, really close to just talking about how Terry Fontenot wasn't qualified for this job, and he's showing it by his lack of knowledge on how to build a roster. And they have a really hey, I'm going to need you to take over for a couple seconds, okay?
You good, buddy? All right.
Yeah, remove me from the screen real quick.
Yeah, I got you. All right. So, hey, that's not a bad suggestion. I don't know where exactly he fits. I know they said he can kind of play inside out. That's interesting. I'm really interested in Rook Ororo. Didn't have him going, at least in my opinion. I didn't see him go until the 3rd round. But yeah, that's just my take. I'll go back to saying, Brandon Delores, probably my favorite pick of the guys outside of the first 2 rounds for the Falcons. And I will go and say this. I think Dan agrees. He can tell you himself. Michael Penix, I think Michael Penix is one of our favorite quarterbacks in the draft. We both liked Penix coming out. The only problem with the selection of Penix was the value of it. If the Falcons took Penix at 8, and then move back into the first round, I think Dan wouldn't really. I don't think people would have cared. They would have said, okay, that's fine. Or if they decided, hey, we're going to take an edge rusher or another need at 8 and then trade back in and go get a quarterback. Again, I think that's fine. But the value of it all, I think, is what creates the problem here. Here in a moment, guys, we will get back to y'all here next week, 7:30. That's going to wrap it up for the show tonight. We had some things pop up this evening, so I don't want to hold Dan up any longer, and I don't want to hold y'all up. Next Tuesday, 7:30, back here at the Top Dawg Talk. We appreciate y'all for being here. Dan, you want to close this out real quick with your tradition?
Yeah, well, I just will say I apologize, guys. I have to run. Something came up really quick. I got a family thing going on that I got to run. We had a lot more show for you. I apologize. This one's on me. We'll pick up where we left off. But as always, follow us, like us, subscribe, share us with your friends. We apologize we were gone for so long. I apologize I'm having to leave right now. It's just life sometimes gets in the way. So anyway, please, like I said, like, subscribe, share, and as always, go Dogs.